Ashes of deceit. It was a Thursday evening when I discovered the truth. The kind of evening that starts out with the mundane rhythm of routine. The chirp of notifications from texts. The soft hum of groceries being unpacked. The aroma of lasagna baking in the oven, only to be shattered like glass under a hammer. I had just returned from work, balancing 2 tote bags of groceries in one hand and my overstuffed laptop bag in the other. Feeling equal parts exhausted and accomplished as I imagined myself collapsing onto the couch at the end of dinner. Matt, my boyfriend of 3 years, had said he'd be home late because of a last-minute meeting. His job, he always claimed, was demanding, relentless even. Working in marketing, he carried the kind of energy that people gravitated toward. The sharp suits, the easy smile, the charisma that seemed effortless. I had always admired how he could walk into a room and own it without breaking a sweat. But lately, there had been cracks in the smooth veneer of our relationship. Little things, subtle changes. Looking back, maybe I should have paid more attention. The missed calls, the sudden guardedness with his phone, the way his eyes occasionally flickered with unease when I asked him simple questions about his day. I told myself I was being paranoid. "You're overthinking again," I'd chastise myself. I had always been the type to worry, to analyze a sideways glance or an unreturned text longer than I should. But that night, the night that would change everything, I wasn't looking for proof of anything. It found me. The smell of lasagna wafted through the kitchen as I set the table for 2. Even though I knew Matt wouldn't be home until late, the candles flickered faintly, casting shadows across the room as I flipped through social media to pass the time. My thumb stopped abruptly when I saw a story posted by Claire, one of Matt's coworkers. Claire and I didn't know each other well, but we'd interacted at office parties and shared enough pleasantries to follow each other online. The video was only a few seconds long, but it was enough. The camera panned across a dimly lit restaurant, candles glowing on white linen tablecloths, laughter bubbling in the background. Claire's caption read, "After work drinks with the dream team." Clinking glasses. But it wasn't Claire I was looking at. It was Matt, leaning in close to a woman I didn't recognize. Her hand was on his arm. Her head tilted back in laughter that seemed too familiar, too intimate. And then, as if the universe wanted to confirm my worst fears in vivid, unforgiving detail, Matt leaned in and kissed her. The phone slipped from my hand, clattering onto the counter. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The air was thick and heavy in my lungs, and my vision blurred with tears that threatened to spill over. My mind raced, wild and frantic, a series of disjointed thoughts crashing into each other like waves in a storm. How long had this been going on? Who was she? Why? I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something, to shatter the plates I had just set so carefully on the table. But instead, I stood frozen, the only sound in the room the faint hiss of the oven as it preheated. My fingers trembled as I picked up my phone and replayed the video, each time hoping, praying, that I had misunderstood. But there was no mistaking it. His smile, the way he touched her arm, the way their lips met, it was all there, undeniable and damning. For a moment, I thought about calling him, confronting him right then and there. But a voice inside me, the rational, calculating part of my brain, whispered, "Not yet, not like this." If Matt thought he could humiliate me, if he thought he could betray me and walk away unscathed, he was wrong. I wasn't going to implode like a doormat. I was going to burn it all down. By the time Matt came home that night, I had composed myself. My heart still felt like it was being squeezed in a vice, but my face betrayed none of it. I greeted him at the door with a soft smile, my voice warm and steady. "Hey," he said, leaning in to kiss me. I tilted my head ever so slightly so that his lips brushed my cheek instead. He didn't notice. Or maybe he did, and he chose not to comment. Either way, it didn't matter. Dinner's ready, I said. He sat across from me at the table, his eyes scanning his phone between bites, his expression unreadable. I watched him carefully, looking for any hint of guilt or hesitation. But he was as charming and nonchalant as ever. It made my stomach churn. Long day? I asked, keeping my tone light. You have no idea, he replied with a weary chuckle. The meeting ran late, but we got a lot done. I nodded, pretending to believe him, pretending I didn't already know where he had been and what he had done. It took me 2 weeks to gather all the evidence I needed. 2 weeks of playing the doting girlfriend, of biting my tongue every time I wanted to scream at him for lying to my face. Every time he kissed me goodnight, every time he told me he loved me. It was like swallowing shards of glass. But I knew I couldn't confront him without proof, without a plan. I started by digging through his phone. He had always been protective of it, but he often left it charging on the kitchen counter when he showered. It only took a few minutes to find what I was looking for. Text messages, photos, plans for secret rendezvous, all of it laid out in black and white. Her name was Vanessa, and she wasn't just some random woman. She was his coworker, his subordinate, to be exact. The discovery was a revelation, a spark that ignited the flames of my fury. Matt had always prided himself on his professionalism, his reputation as a leader and a mentor. That image was about to crumble. The first step was to reach out to Vanessa. It wasn't hard to find her contact information. She had a LinkedIn profile that listed her work email. I drafted a message carefully, disguising it as a professional inquiry about their company's services. When she replied, I knew I had her attention. I arranged a meeting at a coffee shop across town, arriving early so I could choose a seat near the window. When she walked in, I recognized her immediately from the photos on Matt's phone. She was younger than me by a few years, with perfectly styled hair and an air of confidence that made my stomach twist. Vanessa? I said, standing to greet her. She smiled politely, clearly confused. Hi, you must be Emily? I nodded. Thanks for meeting me. Please, have a seat. As she sat down, I took a deep breath, steadying myself. I have to apologize for the deception, I began. This isn't actually about work. It's about Matt. Her expression shifted, a flicker of panic crossing her face. I'm sorry, but, don't, I interrupted, my voice sharper than I intended. Don't lie to me. I know everything. For a moment, she said nothing, her eyes darting toward the door as if calculating her chances of escape. But then she sighed, her shoulders slumping in defeat. What do you want? She asked. I want the truth, I said. How long has this been going on? She hesitated, then muttered, 6 months. The words hit me like a punch to the gut, but I refused to let her see my pain. Instead, I leaned forward, my voice low and steady. You need to end it. Now. And if you think I'm just going to let this slide, think again. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. Are you threatening me? I met her gaze head on. No, I'm promising you. With Vanessa on edge, I turned my attention to Matt's company. Over the years, I had learned enough about their inner workings to know where the skeletons were buried. Matt had confided in me about the gray areas of their marketing practices. The dubious client deals, the falsified campaign metrics. I had files, emails, and recordings of conversations he had carelessly discussed in our home, never imagining they could be used against him. It took hours of digging and organizing, but by the end of the weekend, I had compiled a damning dossier. I emailed it anonymously to the company's board of directors, along with a detailed account of Matt's relationship with Vanessa. complete with screenshots of their text messages and photos. The fallout was swift. By Monday morning, Matt was summoned to a meeting with HR. By noon, Vanessa's desk was cleared out, and rumors were flying through the office like wildfire. By the end of the week, Matt was officially terminated for violating company policy. When Matt came home that night, he looked like a shell of the man I had known. His suit was rumpled, his tie undone, and his eyes hollow. He sat down heavily on the couch, burying his face in his hands. "What happened?" I asked, feigning concern. "They fired me," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "They said there was an anonymous report about my relationship with Vanessa, and other things." I sat down beside him, my heart pounding with a mix of triumph and rage. "I don't understand," I said, my voice trembling. "Why would someone do that?" He looked at me then, his eyes filled with guilt and desperation. "Emily, I messed up. Save it," I snapped, my voice cutting through the air like a whip. "I know, Matt. I've known for weeks." His face crumpled, and for the first time, I saw the man behind the mask. The coward, the liar, the fraud. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I didn't mean." "You didn't mean to get caught," I interrupted. "But you did. And now you're going to live with the consequences." As I stood and walked away, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. The storm had passed, leaving behind the ashes of deceit. And in those ashes, I found my strength. The slam of the bedroom door behind me echoed in the silence of the house. My chest heaved as I leaned against the wall, the adrenaline and fury still coursing through my veins. I could hear Matt's muffled voice calling my name from the other side of the door, pleading for a conversation I wasn't ready to have yet. For years, I had given everything to this relationship. My time, my patience, my trust, and here he was. The man who once swore to cherish me, reduced to a desperate, stammering wreck as his life unraveled before him. The same life he had built on lies, casual betrayals, and ego. The more I thought about it, the more the anger bubbled back to the surface. I pressed my hands to my temples, trying to steady the whirlwind of emotions threatening to swallow me whole. My small apartment suddenly felt suffocating, like the walls were closing in. The soft beige tones of the living room, the photo frames filled with memories of trips and laughter, the neatly arranged bookshelves I had once loved, all of it mocked me now. This space wasn't a sanctuary anymore. It was a crime scene, littered with remnants of a relationship that was built on fabricated sincerity. I sat on the edge of the bed, pressing my hands into my thighs to ground myself. My mind flashed back to the first time Matt and I had visited his office's holiday party together. I had been so proud to be there with him. His arm draped protectively around my waist as he introduced me to his colleagues. He had looked at me then like I was the only person in the room. Or so I thought. Now, I wondered if he had worn the same expression when Vanessa had caught his eye. The thought sent a wave of humiliation crashing over me. How many of them had known? How many of those coworkers I had mingled with, shared drinks with, had been privy to his affair? My stomach clenched as I realized that perhaps I had been a punchline at the water cooler. The clueless girlfriend kept in the dark. The shame twisted around my chest like barbed wire. But it hardened my resolve. The next few days were strained. To say the least, Matt's footsteps echoed through the apartment like a ghost haunting its own grave. I watched him move through our home, a man unraveling at the seams. His once pristine suits hung awkwardly on his frame, now wrinkled from sleepless nights. His eyes, once vibrant with that magnetic confidence, were bloodshot and hollow. He spent hours on his computer, typing furiously and making what sounded like desperate, pleading phone calls. I knew he was scrambling to recover, trying to salvage whatever scraps of his reputation he could. But it was too late. The ripple effect of the anonymous report I had sent was spreading further than even I had anticipated. Matt had always been a rising star in his industry. His connections ran deep, and his future had seemed golden. But news travels fast, and scandals travel faster. The details of his affair with Vanessa and the unethical marketing practices I had exposed were whispered in meeting rooms and forwarded in late-night emails. His name had become radioactive. By the middle of the week, I overheard him arguing with his best friend Dave, who had been one of Matt's biggest supporters. "I can't just vouch for you anymore, Matt," Dave had said over the phone, his tone sharp with frustration. "This is bad, really bad. What the hell were you thinking?" Quote, Matt's protests grew louder, more desperate, but Dave wasn't budging. "Look, man, I've got my own career to think about. No one wants to be associated with this mess right now. I'm sorry, but you're on your own." When Matt hung up, his head fell into his hands. And for the first time, I felt nothing. No pity, no sympathy, just the cold, detached satisfaction of knowing the choices he had made were catching up to him. He had built his empire on a foundation of deceit, and now it was crumbling, brick by brick. On Friday morning, I got a text from Vanessa. It was short, clipped, and dripping with bitterness. "You've made your point. I hope you're proud of yourself." A sarcastic laugh escaped me as I read it. Proud? Proud wasn't the right word. I wasn't proud of what I had done. But I certainly didn't regret it. Vanessa had been a willing participant in this betrayal. She had known about me and chosen to pursue Matt anyway. She didn't deserve my sympathy any more than he did. Still, her text gave me an idea. I replied, "I'd like to meet. One last time. I think you and I both deserve some closure." An hour later, we were sitting at the same coffee shop where we'd first spoken. This time, Vanessa's polished exterior had taken a hit. Her makeup was hastily applied, her usually sleek hair tied back in a messy bun. "What do you want?" she asked, her tone sharp and impatient. "To talk," I said simply. I sipped my coffee, letting the silence stretch long enough to make her squirm. "And to tell you that Matt is still lying to you." Her lips parted as if to fire back a retort, but she hesitated. "What are you talking about?" Quote, I leaned forward, lowering my voice. "Do you really think you're the only one? Because you're not. I've seen the messages. Vanessa, he's been talking to other women. Probably for months." Her face crumpled, the confident facade finally breaking. "You're lying," she said. But her voice wavered. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The weight of her silence confirmed that deep down, she already suspected the truth. "Why are you telling me this?" she finally asked, her voice barely audible. "Because I want you to know who he really is," I said, my tone cold but steady. "And because you deserve to sit with the same betrayal I've been living with." I stood, leaving her to grapple with the realization that she had been just another pawn in Matt's selfish games. The final blow came the following Monday. Matt had been glued to his phone all day, pacing the apartment like a caged animal. I knew he was waiting for something. A callback, a lifeline. But when the call finally came, it wasn't the salvation he'd been hoping for. I sat in the living room, pretending to read a book as he answered. His end of the conversation started politely enough, but within minutes, his voice grew strained. "Wait, no, there has to be some mistake." His words trailed off, replaced by a stunned silence. When he hung up, he slumped into a chair across from me, rubbing his temples. "That was the recruiter," he muttered. They said they've received concerning feedback about me. They're rescinding the offer." I didn't even bother to feign surprise. "Feedback?" I echoed, setting my book down and tilting my head. I wonder where they got that from. His gaze snapped to mine, confusion giving way to disbelief as the pieces clicked into place. You, he breathed. You did this. I met his accusation head on, my expression unflinching. You did this to yourself. Matt, I just made sure the truth came to light. For a moment, he looked at me as if I were a stranger. And maybe I was. The Emily he thought he knew. The one who would forgive and forget. Who would quietly pick up the pieces of his mess. Was gone. Why? He croaked, his voice trembling. Wasn't it enough to ruin my job? My reputation? Why go further? Quote, I stood and approached him, my voice calm and steady. Because you didn't just cheat on me, Matt. You lied to me, disrespected me, made me question my own worth. You took everything I gave you and threw it away. So no, it wasn't enough. I wanted you to feel just a fraction of what I felt. He didn't respond. He just sat there, staring at the floor, the weight of his choices finally crashing down on him. That night, I began packing my things. It wasn't hard to decide what to take. Most of what filled this apartment was a painful reminder of the life we had built together. A life that no longer existed. By the time the sun rose, I had loaded the last of my belongings into my car. Before I left, I placed a note on the kitchen counter. It was short, to the point, and free of the venom that had fueled me for so long. I deserve better. Goodbye. As I drove away, the city blurred past me in a haze of streetlights and morning fog. I felt a strange mix of exhaustion and liberation, my chest lighter than it had been in weeks. I didn't know where I was going yet, but I knew this much. I was free. And Matt? Matt would have to live with the ashes of everything he had destroyed.